Hey everybody, welcome to the Ground Effect podcast, where we dive into the heart of Formula One, bringing you the latest news, insider analysis, and sharing our thoughts on the motorsport we love. So come and join us, G and Mick, as we look forward to what promises to be an exciting 2025 Formula One season.
Well, Suzuka, done and dusted. What was looking to be a fiery weekend turned out to be a bit of a fizzer. So thanks for joining us from wherever you are. As we look back at the Japanese Grand Prix, Ferrari's woes seem to continue. Yuki, did he impress? What rookies impressed? A couple of good drives there from the rookies. Another masterclass from Max Verstappen and McLaren's poor strategy. So here to discuss all things Japanese GP, of course. Here's my good mate G. What's going on, man? What do you think of the race and McLaren?
Well, the race was pretty boring. Yeah, I was expecting a better race. I've always liked Suzuka as a circuit, so I thought we might get something a little bit more exciting than what we did. McLaren, well, I think they had an opportunity there to swap those drivers a little bit earlier and give Oscar a chance to chase down Verstappen, and if it didn't work, swap them back, but they just held the status quo, and I guess they're happy with the P2 and P3 at the end.
Yeah, it seemed like the call from the pit wall with Lando's just looking after his tyres, I think is a bit of a cop-out. You know, you sit back and save your tyres. Max is out front in clean air. He's just controlling the pace the whole time. You know, and you saw towards the end when Lando supposedly went to have a crack, Max had him covered. He had them covered being in clean air that whole race. I don't think with the low deg, the cooler temperatures, one-stop strategy, follow the leader. There was nothing they could do. They really lost that race on a Saturday.
Yeah, and I think Piastri will be kicking himself because, to be fair, he looked good in qualifying. I mean, he munted the sector one, but he went purple in the two final sectors, or the other way around. Anyway, I think he knows that was a massive opportunity missed, and I think he'll be first to admit that regardless of the situation, the strategy call from McLaren, he knows that he should have done a better job on the Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, really, they should have qualified 1-2. And like you said, that's where they lost the race, was on Saturday. But Max, man, is just, the dude's a gun, just does it time after time. Do you think Red Bull are back, pace-wise?
No, I don't think so, pace-wise. I just think Max can just extract, like there's a theoretical best lap in each of those cars out there. And I think from a driver standpoint, he is the guy that can basically, lap after lap, or whenever it's required, extract close to that theoretical limit, right? And I just think that's what sets him apart from a lot of drivers on the grid. It's very rare to see him make mistakes, and particularly when he is on the limit. So, yeah, it was just another masterclass. But I mean, you know, you come to expect that. Four-time world champion, and yeah, I still think McLaren have the pace advantage overall. It's still early days, only three weekends in, so plenty more to come.
Yep. And what do you think of the Red Bull livery?
Oh man, on point.
Yeah, it was pretty good, eh?
Yeah, look good.
Yeah.
Definitely look good. I mean, I'd love them to keep it the whole time, but obviously it's a bit of a nod towards Honda, their traditional red and white colours, so that looked awesome. Looked great on track.
Yeah. And what do you make of Yuki's first weekend as a Red Bull driver?
Look, it was, I mean, he's be pretty disappointed to finish outside the points in P12. It's hard to sort of gauge. I mean, look, first and foremost, this is his first race in the car, so you got to give him that. During the practice sessions and everything, yeah, he was relatively close to Max, but I don't think Max was really laying down any sort of real competitive times because Max just seemed to be struggling through all those sessions. He'll be ruining the mistake apparently in Sector 1 or Turn 1 in qualifying that let him get out-qualified by Liam Lawson. So he wouldn't be happy with that. But look, he's there to make to score points. So pressure builds.
Yeah, and I mean, that Red Bull still looks really edgy on turning. I think we were talking about it earlier this morning. Yuki was running running a high rear wing. They were obviously making a concerted effort to make it more of a balanced aero package.
I mean, it could have paid off. Like if there was rain, it probably would have suited that particular setup. Because, clearly he was running a lot more downforce than Max.
Yeah, but Red Bull obviously clearly trying to make a concerted effort to make a more balanced car for another driver rather than just building the car around Max.
Yeah, completely makes sense. Something a little bit more, I guess, more conducive to sort of like the high-speed entry corners, that type of stuff. Give him a little bit more confidence that the rear end isn't going to rotate itself around. But yeah, it was a bit of a tough one. I think, yeah, if the rain did come down, then, I mean, first we would have got a far more exciting race overall, but I think the setup he was running would have probably shone a little bit more. But, I mean, look, it's early days, first race down. You know, it's just one of those things that pressure builds because quick turnaround, Bahrain this week, he needs to score points.
Yep, and Red Bull supposedly bringing more upgrades to Saudi and Bahrain. So you would imagine that will get them closer to McLaren again. He definitely needs to be up there. Speaking of Yuki and getting the seat at Red Bull, we'll switch to the partner team, RB. What'd you make of Lawson's?
I think he'll be disappointed. Look, I think he'll be pretty happy that he outqualified Yuki, but at the end of the day, it's the race that really, really counts. Look, I think he stepped in and I think his pace was relatively good in relation to Hadjar. Come qualifying, Hadjar made it through to Q3. Liam didn't, so obviously that will be something he'll be really disappointed about. I think the strategy for the race, they ran him super long on those mediums, and it looked like they were sort of gambling for the rain to come down. And then there's just the softs on the end. He just, couldn't really manage to get through any sort of traffic. It was him and Sainz that were sort of like battling there, and they sort of ran the same strategy, and Sainz was able to sort of pass a few cars further up, but Liam sort of got stuck behind a bit of a train there. So I think you'll be disappointed. Look, yes, he drove the car last year, but again, you've just come from the Red Bull car. You've probably been trying to adapt to drive that, and then you're thrown back into another car. So like Yuki, he just needs another couple of races. So
I think for him, it was just get through this weekend. You could see he sort of built relatively good throughout the whole weekend. Again, like you said, it was the strategy, I think, for the race. They took a gamble, obviously, for him having not a great qualifying. But I think, just getting through the weekend and now moving on to the next one. Now all the noise is behind him. Now he can focus on the next two races.
Yeah, true. And I think the same thing for Tsunoda as well. I just think after Saudi, I think that's when we can really judge because, at least it's 3 weekends back in the car and, we're going to judge him against Hadjar and we're going to judge Tsunoda whether he can get close to Max and score points. So, interesting times for both drivers.
Yeah. Speaking of Hadjar, had a cracker weekend, man. He looked good, got a good haul of points. That car looks pretty decent.
Yeah, well, he had a little problem there with his big balls, didn't he?
Got him stuck in the seatbelts.
So yeah, he's maybe he's dragging some big balls around in the car as well. But no, he did really well. I mean, it's his first Formula One points. Considering where he started off in Melbourne with the formation lap accident and to where he is now, I think he's tracking really well. And he's got some good pace because in reality, he wasn't really far off Tsunoda in those couple of race weekends as far as pace goes. So no, he's looking good. And this is the thing with the rookies, right? It's about just getting a few performances behind you, build up the confidence, and then you start to believe that you belong, and then you just go from strength to strength. So no, he's looking good.
And another thing I've noticed is he seems completely different to how he was back in the F2 days. He's really calm. He seems really focused, doesn't get too flustered. And I think, that bodes well for him. Like, he seems like a completely different person to what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, well, he's probably grown up a little bit. He's in the big leagues now, so yeah, he needs to, I guess, behave himself.
Got read the riot act, you reckon?
Possibly. But let's just see, it all comes down to, you're a happy driver when you're beating your teammates.
Yeah.
So if he consistently does that, then I'm pretty sure he'll be quite calm and collected. But if Lawson sort of comes back and starts challenging him, and then there's that sort of, again, inter-team battle, we'll probably see the real Hadjar come out. But no, he's tracking well so far.
Yeah, for now he's doing a really good job, I think. RB would be quite happy. Speaking of Red Bull drivers, the two former Red Bull drivers, Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz, that pace seemed pretty genuine in that car.
Yeah, Williams, a bit of a funny one. Albon again had a pretty decent weekend. I mean, he had some sort of had a few
shift issues
there. Apparently, he was getting a little bit heated on the team radio there. Carlos, I mean, he'll be disappointed again.
Well, he kind of ruined himself with that incident with Hamilton in qualifying, right, where he impeded Hamilton. in qualifying. So he got that 3-place grid penalty.
Yep.
Which then, you look back at the race and it was like, that was basically it. So then he like you said, he went with that strategy similar to Lawson.
Yeah, it was basically bang on, exactly the same. And ran long on those mediums and then onto the softs on the end and sort of caught in no man's land there.
But the pace was generally pretty good though in that last stint.
Yeah, he looked pretty decent. Again, it just goes to show how intricate the cars are. It was that time when we got to sit down with Daniel Ricciardo and have a chat with him. Yeah. Unfortunately, not on our podcast, but a few years back. And I always remember you asking the question to him. He said, this is when he had just jumped ship from Red Bull to Renault. And you asked that question, do you feel the difference in the car? And what did he say? He said, at 90%, they all feel the same.
Yeah.
But it's when you start trying to extract those final few percentages, that's when the cars are completely different. So I think as viewers at home, we don't really understand or we don't quite get just how intricate some of these cars are. And, you've seen it. You saw Lawson in Red Bull, Tsunoda now, Carlos still getting to grips with it. It seems to be he's struggling more with the braking.
Yeah. Well, that chicane, the last chicane before the main straight, I think he had 3 or 4 lockups during the race.
Yeah.
So, I totally agree. You can't just, you drive a Honda at home every day and then you get in an MG, right? The indicators are on the different side. How hard you need to push the brakes. It's all different.
And you're not even trying to do this on the limit.
No, exactly.
Hopefully not on the roads.
Pretty hard to drive an MG on the limit, those things. A bit of a boat.
Peel the tires off the rims.
Yeah.
But I think I think it was a better weekend than previous ones. But it'll, again, I think we need to give these drivers enough races, enough seat time to then be okay, this is where they're at. And I think we'll start to get a clearer picture after Saudi in a few weeks.
Well, he seems... When you listen to him, he knows the pace is there. He's just got to get on top of the car.
Yeah.
And then once he does that, then I think he'll really start to pressure Albon.
Yeah, because that's the thing, right? I'm really interested to see how Albon reacts if and when Carlos is outperforming him or at least at his level. Because, I think the jury's still out on Albon under pressure.
Yeah.
But he's doing a good job.
Yeah. And from Williams, we'll go to another Mercedes-powered car. The Mercedes factory team of George Russell and Kimi. Man, Kimi killed it.
Yeah, well, little tidbit, he's the youngest ever driver to lead a race, beating Max Verstappen's record. Yeah, he's looking good. Again, it's just another one of those rookies. Like I said, you start stringing good performances together, confidence builds, right? George, unfortunately for him, couldn't grab another podium this weekend, but I think Mercedes sort of extracted the most what they could have for the weekend.
Yeah, you look at qualifying. George missed the mark just by a little bit. You saw how close it was at the top. You don't have to miss it by much. And then, from there, the whole race, man, was won and lost on Saturday. They're probably still the second quickest car. Jury's out on Red Bull. I guess we'll see over the next 2 races whether their pace is genuine. It'll be interesting. And Kimi, probably my driver of the day, not Yuki Tsunoda. I don't know how they came up with that. Man. When they read it out, I was like, what? Yeah, are you for real?
You fans out there are delusional.
But we love you all.
Yeah, we love you all. But you Yuki fans are very delusional for the driver of the day.
Yeah, so there's not too much. Mercedes lacking that a little bit of aero balance in the high-speed corners. So they've got a little bit of work to do. But, genuinely the pace is there. I think George is in the fight. Ferrari, man. What's going on there? They're still struggling with the rear of that car. Apparently, Lewis had some underperforming parts. I don't know what that means, but obviously there was something that wasn't working.
And they ran him on a different strategy too. Out of the sort of, the top 15, he was the only guy that started on the
hard tyre
as well.
Yeah. They've admitted they've had to run the car higher than they want because they didn't want a repeat of China. Their issue is clearly with the rear of that car, and hopefully they can get on top of it. For me, Bahrain will be the interesting one with Ferrari because in pre-season testing, they didn't seem to have any of those issues with the rear of the car. Leclerc did a relatively good job. He did probably the best with what he's got. He wasn't overly happy with 4th.
I think he extracted all he could for the weekend. I think Hamilton will probably be more disappointed. He didn't come to Ferrari to battle with a racing bull. So, I mean, his whole race was just a battle with Hadjar. That's not what he wants to be doing. He wants to be battling, obviously, at the top. So, yeah, let's see if they can get around that little problem.
I mean, you saw, like, he couldn't even stick with Kimi, and Kimi was on those medium tyres for, like, 30-odd laps.
Yep.
And Hamilton was just stuck, like, 4 seconds behind. So, yeah, they've got some issues there that they need to get on top of. And they need to get on top of them soon. I'm not sure if they're bringing updates for Bahrain, so I think they're kind of holding out there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they can do. Another team that struggled big time was Aston.
Yeah, I mean, Alonso will be pretty happy he actually finished the race. Stroll bringing up the rear. That was sort of like nowhere most of the weekend.
Well, it seemed like a lot of these teams that sort of took a punt on strategy, again with the low deg, high-speed corners, a bit of a Monaco, you sort of follow the leader. Like, not even the undercut work.
Yeah, it was just set up to be follow the leader, right? I mean, the DRS zone wasn't powerful enough. I mean, if you got around 130R and you got through that final chicane really well with the car in front of you, then you sort of had a chance. But it was almost like the DRS just set you up to get close to the car in front of you and then go through those high-speed S's. And all you're doing to try and stick there is just burning out tires, right? So
yeah. You kind of needed like a Baku main straight.
Yeah.
For the DRS to really work.
Yeah.
Pity it rained in the morning because maybe a couple of fires bring out the safety car might have helped with the racing.
Yeah, would have thrown a few things up, that's for sure. We definitely needed rain. That's one thing. Yeah, essentially the race was a qualifying race. It was just essentially like Monaco. I mean, Fred Vasseur came out and he basically said that F1 is in danger of becoming a qualifying world championship.
Yeah.
But hey, look, it's just some tracks are just more conducive to that. So, look, I'm sure it'll be a different story at Bahrain. I mean, Bahrain has thrown up some absolute stonkers over the years, so hopefully we get some excitement.
Yeah, pretty stale there with Aston. Alpine, what'd you make of Alpine?
Oh, well...
the Doohan saga continues.
The whole thing, like, FP1, right? So they replaced Doohan with...
Hirakawa?
Yep, which to me just doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's like setting up for failure.
Yeah, Doohan's your rookie driver, right? So why would you do that? It's pretty obvious.
Well, you saw the result of that, right? FP2, man. Listen.
I mean, Doohan's accident was an absolute monster.
It was crazy.
It's testament to the safety of the cars, really, because, I mean, that was an absolutely monstrous crash. Yeah, and I mean, that's a confidence thing, right? He's a rookie. Basically, he goes on his first hot lap, bang. Massive accident. So it sort of compromises his weekend, but like I think Doohan in relation to Gasly, he's done okay. He hasn't done too bad. But I mean the Alpines, I mean the only team not to score points at the moment, 3 weekends in. And they're just not looking very competitive whatsoever. But tough one there, tough weekend. Doohan, again, like I saw footage of him trying to get out of the car on Sunday and he was struggling. He had to get Ocon to help him out. So clearly he's injured. The guy has to race. I mean...
Oh, yeah.
It's his career on the line, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, he was probably racing at 80%. Clearly his left arm was buggered by the footage.
Well, because it took him a while to get him actually out of the car after the accident, right?
Yeah. But again, like those Doohans, they do it tough. I mean, his old man...
Oh, man, he was a hard nut, old Mick Doohan.
I think the guy's broken every bone in his body. But yeah, he knows like he has to race. So, he's probably... faking it to Alpine just how bad he really was just to make sure he stepped in that car because I saw some footage. I don't know how legit it was, but apparently Colapinto was testing in Monza, I believe, on Sunday.
If that's the case, then sounds like a pretty clear cut on what's coming maybe after the triple header.
Yeah, which is a shame because I think Doohan's, he's made some mistakes. He hasn't quite nailed it yet, but I'm looking at pace in relation to Gasly. He's not far off.
He wasn't even far off in the race, really.
No. Yeah.
Just again, that was the strategy didn't pay off.
Yeah.
So he struggled towards the end trying to make the tyres last.
So what was the deal with the accident itself? Like, what have they come out and said? Was it DRS issue?
Yeah, so Alpine have come out and said he failed to close the DRS, but then on Planet F1, they showed some data where first lap, he lifted off the throttle, tapped the brake, closed DRS. Now, on the lap where he had the accident, he did the same thing, but the only difference is this time he didn't lift off the throttle. So he kept his foot planted on the throttle, tapped the brake, but the DRS didn't close. So I don't know, is that a mechanical failure or is that driver error? I'm not sure. Do they normally keep their foot flat and then tap the brake to close DRS, or do they have to lift off, tap the brake? I'm not sure. So, but obviously they basically came out and said it was a driver error. He failed to close the DRS. So, and would that have happened if he had that time in FP1? I don't think so. So he literally came out, tried to get on the limit straight away because he's trying to make up for the lost time that he didn't have in FP1.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that it's Colapinto's seat.
Yeah, it's like let's just rip the Band-Aid off and get it done. Enough with the needful. Let's just get it done.
Well, hopefully they give him a couple more races, because the key is if he can put some good performances together, then, it bodes well for maybe some future opportunities should they arise. Clearly, yeah, he's on a lot of pressure to keep that seat.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it hard to when that Alpine's a pig. It's just a bucket. Like,
yeah.
Even Gasly's like, we've got a lot of work to do. They haven't scored a point yet.
The highs and lows of racing, because when you think about the end of last season, Alpine wasn't too bad. It kind of looked like they're making a little bit of progress there, but that's racing, right?
Yeah, and their closest competitors taking good points away from them. So, speaking of that, we'll move on to Haas. Young Bearman. Got his bear claws out, man.
Oh, mate, in quali, he ripped it, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a cracker weekend. Made Ocon look ordinary.
Thing with Bearman, he's like, when you look at all the races he's done, I mean, sure, he's made a few mistakes and he's had a few sort of underwhelming performances, but when he has a cracking performance, he has a proper cracker,
Yeah.
He's got something in him, definitely.
Yeah, definitely a bit of crack about him. It looked like their floor update worked. They were unsure because they didn't actually get time to do wind tunnel testing, so it was all CFD, and then they threw it on the car and were hoping for the best. And during the practice sessions, and it didn't really look like it was going to do anything, but it seemed to work.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be super happy. I mean, to have outperformed Ocon again. So yeah, Haas looking all right. But again, they're just one of those teams where they have a few, they can have a good weekend, and then the following weekend they can just be absolutely nowhere. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they pull off next weekend. But yeah, from an inter-team battle, Ocon will be pretty disappointed to come off second best against the Rook.
Well, the pressure's got to start to mount on Ocon soon, surely, right? Because he was supposed to be the like-for-like swap with Hülkenberg, and he's had one half decent performance so far. Bearman made him look ordinary.
Yeah, I guess also he had a great quality, that's for sure. But actually, he came out, I did read, he came out and said that the line that he was taking, because he was so tucked in against that wall, that pit lane wall, he was saying it's the line he uses in iRacing. He was calling it the iRacing line.
That's awesome.
So there you go. Use some races out there.
There's hope for us.
There's hope. Keep training, keep playing, and there may be some hope. Yeah.
Who knows? You may end up in the Haas.
You never know.
You never know. And Stake, well, another non-performance. I guess you could say. Bit underwhelming again. Strategy just didn't really pay off for them. Hulk couldn't make inroads. So, yeah, they still got a fair bit of work to do.
Yeah, Stake, kick, Sauber, whatever you want to call them. Another kick in the balls weekend. Just really nowhere at the moment. I mean, we've discussed it plenty of times. I mean, they're definitely looking ahead with the whole Audi partnership. But yeah, I mean, they'll be wanting to drag more performance out of the car over the next coming races. But at the moment, they just look like the backmarkers for the season, just a continuation from 2024, really. Not a lot to say about them. I mean, Bortoletto, didn't really get to see too much of him during the race. Again, maybe for him at a personal level, being in a backmarker team like that just takes a lot of pressure off. He just needs to perform against Hülkenberg. But yeah, not a lot to say about that poor old green car at the moment. Sort of pop up on every weekend. You sort of think, oh yeah, and Stake. Well, yeah, not much. Although they did get those points in Melbourne.
Yeah.
But again, that's one of those anomaly races when you get the rain, and it's all about capitalizing on the strategy, and there's a lot of gambling involved in those type of races as well.
Stake, well done at the moment. Overcooked at the moment.
They're overcooked.
So hopefully they can.
They're definitely not the is it the Wagyu steak?
Yeah,
they're definitely not the Wagyu kind of steak at the moment. They're
the chuck steak.
Gristly, cheap, on special. They're the stewing steak at the moment.
Stewing steak, but it's stir fry.
Yeah, the slowing stew steak at the moment. They're definitely not premium level yet.
That's good. So the race overall, pretty ordinary. What do you think they could do to spice up races like that?
Sprinkler system. I mean, in Japan, right? Suzuka sprinkler system, it would have negated the fires from the sparks.
Yep.
And it would have made the track nice and wet, and we would have had a bang of a race. Like old Bernie suggested a few years back.
Yeah. Well, I know George came out at the end of the race and said, with the new track surface, these tyres are a little bit too hard. Maybe Pirelli need to have a look. And when they go to the new resurfaced tracks, they go a compound softer. Because, it's always the two-stop races are the crackers. When it's a one-stop, nothing happens because they're all basically on the same strategy. The only thing is they throw the different strategy at the start of the race rather than in the middle of the race.
Yeah, true.
And you end up in the middle of the race with cars on different compounds, which makes the end of the race spicy.
Yeah, and that's for sure. And naturally, it's just the way the DRS zone is there as well. It's sort of underwhelming. Yeah, the DRS trying to get that balance right because we've seen at some tracks where it's just too OP, and at Suzuka it was just sort of underwhelming because Suzuka's a great track, just a boring one. I even got a message from my dad. He said, so quite often I have to remind my old man that the race is on, better go and watch it. And being in Australia at the moment, it was a great time zone for him with the race in Japan, and basically the message I got from him was, sorry, it didn't do anything for me. Clearly F1, we have a very much a dissatisfied boomer on our hands right now.
That's a great response. But he was right. It literally, if you were new to Formula One and you switched that race on, you'd be like, this is shit.
Well, the highlight...
It's no different to NASCAR. Well, NASCAR's more exciting, actually, but...
Yeah, come on, don't do just NASCAR a disservice like that. The highlight of the weekend was the Lando Norris, Max Verstappen pit exit.
Yeah, well... Even that, man, like, Lando, what are you thinking, bro? Like, okay, I understand maybe in the moment you probably thought this is the only shot I've got to get ahead. But in reality, you gained like 2 seconds or something in that pit stop or over a second in that pit stop.
Yeah, Red Bull was like 1 second slower in the pit stop, I think.
Yeah, so literally if you just tucked back in with him on the fresh tyres and just sat with him, you probably maybe had a better chance of using the DRS on the main straight. Yeah, it's probably a little bit of a desperate move, maybe from Lando.
Yeah, a little bit. And on the radio, like he was sort of like, oh, I was ahead, and he pushed me off. But it's always different when you're in the car and the vision you have, right? So heat of the moment. I mean, look, he took the gamble. I mean, if it paid off, we're talking like half a second.
Yeah.
Right? And if it paid off, would we all like, oh man, what a ballsy move by Lando, like he's ruthless. He's finally got that ruthless streak in him.
Yeah.
Because it didn't pay off. We sort of look at it now like, oh, Lando, you just, it's a silly mistake. So yeah, it was just one of those things, right? The margins are so close. Sort of as simple as that, I guess. But yeah, it was pretty funny in the cool down room when you had Max, Lando, and Oscar there, and
the world's most expensive lawnmower. It was good.
Yeah, Oscar was pretty good in the cool down room where he sort of was making some awkward comments there, but I think Oscar summed it up right. What did he say? He said, "For a race where I felt like we were pushing hard, nothing happened."
Yeah. Yeah, he basically said...
Basically, that's Suzuka
all that happened in the race. Yeah. Like, is that it? Like,
is that it?
We were flat out, and that's all that happened.
It was a stinker.
Yeah, but let's hope Jeddah can turn that around. There's a little bit more, you would say, better opportunities for overtaking with the longer...
You mean Bahrain?
I don't know what I'm talking about then, clearly. Bahrain definitely will be a much better race.
Maybe we get a repeat of Nico and Lewis style with Oscar and Lando.
That would be good to see. But we'll discuss the Bahrain GP in our next episode where we do our Bahrain preview. So I think we'll wrap it up there. We look forward to speaking to you again soon. Hopefully you can join us for the preview show. So until then, we'll catch you in the next one. Laters.
Look forward to it.